If you've been following along so far, you've made the big decision to live stream your services. And that's a huge first step. In my last video, we covered a lot of the why we're doing it, but now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the how, specifically the gear that you're going to need. Now, the biggest question that you have to answer when it comes to gear is this: are you streaming a sermon-only service or a full music service? Because the gear requirements and the cost are quite different. But the good news is that we can build a setup that fits your needs and your budget. So let's start by looking at the simplest option, the sermon-only setup. The sermon-only setup is perfect for small ministries or for those who just want to get their pastor's message out to a wider audience. The goal here is simplicity and clarity, and it all starts with your audio. So first on our shopping list is a soundboard. Now this is the command center for your audio. It's where you'll plug in the pastor's microphone and any other audio sources. From the soundboard, you need to get the audio to your computer. And the simplest way is to use a basic RCA to headphone jack cable, but honestly, this often results in a lot of background noise and a poor quality signal. So for a much cleaner and more professional sound, I highly recommend an inexpensive USB audio interface. It'll act as a bridge between your soundboard and your computer, giving you a clean digital signal for your stream. Next up, the video. You'll need a camera with a good focal length. Now, this is a fancy way of saying a camera that can give you a nice, tight, and clear shot from a distance. So if you have a decent budget, a mirrorless camera like the Panasonic Lumix G7 or G100 with a lens is actually a very good budget option, coming in around $600 US. They offer a high-quality picture with a clean HDMI output, which is crucial for a good stream. And to go along with that camera, you absolutely need a good tripod. Don't skimp on that cheap tripod that's under $100, like that one that you might find in the big box store. A good, reliable tripod is going to cost you around $300, and it's essential for a stable, professional-looking shot. Trust me, you don't want your viewers getting seasick from a wobbly camera. Now, how do you get that beautiful video feed into your computer? Well, that's where an HDMI to USB camera interface comes in. This is a crucial piece of hardware that converts your camera's video feed into a signal that your computer can understand. Now, if you're using more than one camera, maybe one for the pastor, one for the audience, or one for a close shot and one for a distance shot, a switcher like the A10 Mini Pro is an absolute game changer because it's going to allow you to switch between up to 4 camera inputs with the press of a button. Finally, you're going to need a computer with a fast, modern internet connection. Now, without a high-speed internet connection, your stream will be a laggy, pixelated mess. So if you don't have good internet, consider recording the sermon using this setup and publishing it later instead of streaming live. You'll also need OBS, or Open Broadcaster software. It's a powerful and free tool for mixing your audio and video before you go live. A new sermon-only setup could cost you anywhere from a few $100s to a couple of $1,000s. The final price depends more on the equipment that your church already owns and how many cameras that you want. Now, with that said, let's talk about a more advanced setup, the full music service setup. Here's the thing. If you're streaming a full worship and sermon service with live music, your gear list gets a little bit more advanced, especially on the audio side. First of all, we have to look at your soundboard a little more closely. For a music-heavy service, a digital soundboard is actually the ideal option. And many digital boards have a built-in USB output that can send multiple audio channels directly to your computer. This gives you the ability to mix each instrument and vocal individually, which ensures a professional-sounding and balanced online mix. Two great options that I would recommend are the Allen & Heath SQ5, which sits around $4,000, or the Behringer X32 Compact, which sits around $1,600. Now, it is cheaper, but it's also slightly less reliable and a little bit more clunky to use. Now, if you don't want to spend on a digital board, but you do have an analog soundboard, chances are that you can actually make it work. You'll just need to plug in a multi-channel USB audio interface to plug each individual channel into before getting it to your computer. And so a good recommendation for a simple 10-channel USB mixer would be the Mackie ProFX 10 V3 Plus, which sits around $270. This allows you to mix each instrument and vocal individually in your computer software, or if you prefer, actually on the mixer itself if you get that Mackie. With an analog board and a multi-channel interface like I suggested, you may not even need a DAW or digital audio workstation for simple setups, as you can often mix the entirety of the sound right on that interface itself. And of course, if you're using a digital soundboard, you will need that DAW. Something like Ableton Live or Pro Tools are great. This software is where you're going to mix the individual channels that you're sending to your computer from your digital board. For the video side of things, you'll still need the same core components as the sermon-only setup. You're going to need HD video cameras, an HDMI to USB camera interface, or an ATEM Mini Pro switcher, a fast computer, and a high-speed internet connection. So, as you can see, this setup is more complex, and it can be significantly more expensive depending on what you already have, but it does give you total control over your online mix. Now, before we move on to presentation software, which is important, let's talk about two crucial elements that are going to dramatically improve your stream: lighting and microphones. When it comes to lighting, the goal is simple. Make sure the stage is bright and evenly lit so that your subject, that is the pastor, the worship leader, the band, all of those, are clearly visible and they look natural. The reality is that if your stage is too dark for the camera that you're using, you're going to have a hard time getting a quality picture, as your camera has to boost something called the ISO to higher levels, which creates a grainier and less sharp image. Now, of course, I did say that we were looking at lighting and microphones, and so here's the thing you need to know about microphones. The quality of the audio going into your soundboard matters just as much as the soundboard itself. So you need to ensure that you're equipping your pastor with a clear and good quality headset microphone or a quality handheld wireless mic if he's someone that'll actually hold it up to his face. The same goes for everything to do with the music side, but I'm going to assume that if you have a band that is good enough for you to be streaming online, that you kind of have an idea of what it takes to make them sound good. Presentation software. Finally, let's take a look at the software that's going to display your lyrics in your sermon notes. This is often done in a style called lower thirds, where, you guessed it, they are displayed across the lower third of the screen. Now, there are many options for really good presentation software, ranging from free to paid, and so I want to take a look at just a few of those right now. We'll get more in depth with the setup and the running of these in a later video. The first one is FreeShow. Now, as the name suggests, this is actually a free and open source presentation program that's built specifically for churches. And it is great for its massive feature set. In fact, it's a very similar set and experience to the more expensive ProPresenter, but for free. Do keep in mind, with it being open source, it can be a little bit more clunky and prone to bugs. The second option that I'd like to look at is Worship Tools Presenter. This is another solid option. I like it because it's a lightweight solution designed for churches. It features things like cloud syncing, multiple outputs for different screens, and integrations with CCLI and Song Select. It is a little bit limiting in that, at least at the time of this recording, it doesn't have the ability to display your sermon notes on your confidence monitor, but if you're not using it for that anyways, then that part doesn't really matter. What I also like is that it has a paid tier that adds functionality and software to be able to schedule your volunteers and plan your services. So for many churches, worshiptools.com is actually going to replace not only your presentation software, but also your service scheduling and volunteer scheduling software. So you should definitely check that out. Finally, we've got ProPresenter. This is the industry-leading paid option. If you've gone to a big church, chances are they use ProPresenter. It's known for its vast array of features, from multi-screen management to advanced automations. Now, a yearly subscription for a single seat costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $189 or more per year, but this is an investment worth making if you want the highest level of control and functionality without worrying about all the hiccups of open source software. And so there you have it. There's two different paths that you can take to build your live streaming setup, plus some crucial tips on lighting and microphones. Now, the sermon-only route is perfect for those just getting started, while the music service setup is for those who are ready to dive into a more professional production quality. In our next video, we're going to get into the fun stuff and start building out our setup using the gear that we've mentioned today. I'm going to show you exactly how to connect all of these different devices together so that you can get ready to go live. And so before you go, let me know in the comments below if you're more interested in a sermon only or a full music service setup. And what questions you still have about any kind of gear or setup type things. And hey, if this video was helpful, be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss my next video.